Let's go!
I don't do a ton of movie reviews in general, but I do on some franchises. I talked about like Predator Prey. We talk a little bit about some fighting game movie stuff to a certain degree. And obviously a brand new Alien movie is something I would like to talk about. I won't get into spoilers immediately, not immediately, but it is something that I think is worth mentioning to a certain degree. So I'll try to hover around it without getting too deep into it. So the only reason I would be here to discuss something at all regarding Alien Romulus is because I didn't hate it. Is because, no, it actually is the third best Alien movie. That isn't a massive hurdle to jump. I think it lacks the intrigue that I really enjoyed about a movie like Prometheus. Prometheus at least was interesting. I really didn't like a lot of parts of that movie, but at least it set up a lot of interesting questions. Alien Romulus hits enough where I'm like, I don't think I hated it. I think I kind of liked it. You don't like Aliens 3? So understand, I grew up when Aliens 3 was coming out in theaters and everyone hated that shit. Everyone absolutely hated the almost a character betrayal that happened from Aliens moving into Alien 3. And one of the biggest reasons that happened was because of an insane amount of studio interference, like a ridiculous amount of studio interference forced the movie to be into that situation. So Alien 3, I think is a lot better nowadays. It's brutal, man. It's the first big that I can remember in terms of follow-ups and sequels, like a giant, like, fuck you. It had less money, you know, and they had to figure out how to make it work. It was the first time we're gonna subvert expectations so hard, and it did in a way that was like, oh, this is, oh, So that's my feelings on Alien 3, to summarize it. I think Alien Resurrection is a stupid movie with some so bad it's good elements. And then Prometheus is sort of serviceable, interesting at least, but, you know, with some really dumb characters. And Covenant is butt trash. It's the lint that collects in your ass. I do not like it, man. And David, once again, is the most interesting part of that movie. I really dislike it. And a movie that's trying to be smart, it is unbearingly stupid. And that's in comparison to Alien 1 and Aliens. And Alien 1 is one of the greatest movies of all time. And in my opinion, Aliens is actually up there with being the best movie ever made, next to Back to the Future. So that's where my perspective is. That's where my headcanon is. And I'm not completely alien to this genre. We made a massive movie. We made a big-ass 45-minute short film that we reviewed with Yo Video Games a couple of days ago called Alien Sisme. And it was a huge undertaking. We had a lot of aliens. We had a lot of action. We had a lot of set pieces and all this wild stuff that we shot for relatively really low budget with just that costume right there. That was our and my big attempt at filming a xenomorph with just one costume that doesn't really animate or anything, and doing our best with that. So we had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot of lessons of how do we shoot an alien to make it look convincing. Getting into Alien Romulus, it's good. And I think especially the first 30 minutes of the film is really good. I hear that it has a relatively lower production budget, which is mind-blowing that this film started off as like a direct-to-Hulu movie, the same way that Predator Prey did. It's mind-blowing that the quality of the set pieces and most of the stuff we saw, the actual production quality was wild. It was crazy, dude. They actually have like off-world stuff within the first 15 minutes. And it's like, whoa, this doesn't happen too often. And the fact that they did it for pretty much, by all comparison, ridiculously cheap is crazy. It's so crazy. I loved it. And I think the production aspect of it is one of my favorite parts. The way they shoot the alien. Again, the way directors have chosen to film the alien, from Ridley Scott in Alien 1 to James Cameron in Alien 2. Fuck Covenant. We're not even going to talk about that. But Alien 3, which had a lot of difficulty filming the alien, like a lot of... There's obviously they didn't know how to film this thing. And then Alien Resurrection, which has them literally just swimming around and shit with full body features everywhere. And it's like, these things aren't even scary anymore, dude. It's been kind of hard for any director post Aliens to even film a xenomorph, to actually put it on screen and make it look convincing in some way. I'd honestly argue that one of the next best attempts is probably the friggin' AVP movies. To be real, I think like if you want to start reaching, I think the way they film aliens in AVP1 and AVP2 is probably better, which is crazy to think that because the movies are not particularly great. So I am extremely happy that this movie felt tactile. It felt like there was obviously a lot of CG in some parts, but necessary for storytelling reasons. But the majority of stuff that we see in the film feels so lovingly tactile. Like everything just feels like it's there. Most of the shots of like the xenomorph and alien Romulus, or, you know, anytime we see this thing moving around, the way they film it is not the loosey-goosey ass goofy way that they sort of shoot in all the other ones. It's shockingly well done. It's handled with a lot of care. And I'm like, oh, so even points when aliens, you know, take damage, they quite literally handle it in a very similar fashion where they do in Aliens. The only time in alien movies you actually see aliens get fucking wasted is Aliens. It's like one of the only movies where you really see them get wasted by bullets, you know? And Romulus has a very similar approach. They're like, let's not mess with what already works from a filmmaker's perspective, you know? Another credit I want to give it to it, I was on the edge of my seat. Throughout a lot of it, I was on the edge of my seat. I actually felt the tension in the movie. And there were several points where I was like, oh God, what the hell is about to happen? What's about to happen? What am I about to see, dude? So that's good. That's legit, like, good. But it comes with some caveats. I'm trying to mention all the things I really liked about it because, again, I think my review of the film is still about a 7.5. I think an 8 is too high. I think the movie's about like a 7.5 personally. And that might seem low, but that's actually super high. That's actually very high considering most alien films that have existed past Aliens. Character-wise, there's a couple of great characters and the rest of them are just nothing, which leads to another criticism of the movie that we'll talk about a bit later, which is the movie has no time. The overall plot and story is kept relatively simple, but tries to also get kind of big in some places, which was genuinely surprising to me that like, oh, we're actually going here? Whoa, we went here? We're actually wrapping this up? Whoa, okay. This is kind of cool. And I didn't hate that. I thought I would hate that, but I didn't hate that. And it was something that kind of caught me by surprise and I really enjoyed it. So what I feel about the film as an Alien fan is that it is the third best Alien movie. I would gladly watch it again too. I'd gladly watch it again. I love some of the stuff in terms of the tactile feel and the way they shoot the aliens, the fact that it was actually kind of spooky in some situations. There was a lot of tension. It did feel like what alien movies are supposed to be, which are thrillers. They're supposed to be thrillers. This one tries to lean on the horror link. It definitely wants to lean into horror more than it's ever done before. Better than Prey? No. No. I thought Prey was like a 9, dude. Can't remember what I rated Prey. I thought Prey was much better. But, and that will lead us into some of the criticisms I have with it. This is some spoilers. I'm really gonna try to not ruin individual elements of the film for you guys. Alien Romulus' most captivating parts, its greatest strength is also its biggest weakness. And that strength and weakness at times are callbacks in ways that they are either effectively done or mind-numbingly cringy. As somebody that is like familiar to alien movies, is just like, oh shit, that was painful. There's parts of this movie that just feel like alien greatest hits. And there's other parts of the movie where I was like, you know, now that's Alien, you know, instead of now that's music, now that's Alien, where it's like track 4, put the spacesuit on. That's what I was getting by the end of this when it was like, no, don't do it. And then they do it and I'm like, oh God, dude, really? Okay, all right. Force Awakens, way worse. Force Awakens is tame by comparison. What they eventually do in the final half of this movie, it takes you out of the film so much, which is kind of disappointing because the first half of Romulus, the first like one quarter of it is awesome. It's so sick. I'm like, damn, this is about to be like one of the best fucking Alien movies there is. Like, this is like maybe up there. I'm liking this just as much as like Alien 1 type shit. This is really cool. And then it just leans so heavily into like, okay, so now it's not really an Alien remake anymore. Now it's Aliens. Okay, so now it's not really Aliens anymore. Now it's also Prometheus. No, it's not Prometheus now. Now it's also Alien Resurrection. And I'm like, oh, Oh dear. And it feels like studio interference, 100%. It feels like there was a big criticism of Prometheus and that there was no xenomorph stuff. And there was a big criticism of Covenant, that when they put the alien and nobody liked it. It 100% feels like, okay, so we have to have all these things, these callbacks. We need to have callbacks and stuff like that. And they get shoved in so much. But to be fair, some of them are really cool. Some of them I actually legit liked, and other ones I found painful. This is just fucking painful. But still, even when the painful shit was there, I'm still kind of on the edge of my seat because the quality of the filmmaking is legit good. The CGI face was one thing, you know, I get it. It doesn't look great. Rook and his mega pandery, there's no reason it should have been that character. That was like the beginning of it. But after that, it's like, the alien isolation stuff I kind of loved because, to reiterate, the first 30 to 45 minutes of this film is, dude, we're getting a big screen, like giant production movie of alien isolation, and I'm into it, bro. I am super into it. The first chunk of this movie is just alien isolation, and I fucking love it. I love it, dude. This is so sick. It's when it moves away from being alien isolation, it sort of loses that vision, and it starts to get like, it starts to go all over the place where it's like the whole movie becomes throwbacks, and I'm like, whoa. And just to give the movie some credit, and this is some spoilery stuff, characters dropping, I can't even count them. There was like, it felt like there was 10 lines of dialogue that characters would drop that are just from Alien 1 or Alien 2. Just so many lines of dialogue that are just straight out, and there's no reason. The characters are practically looking at the camera and winking type shit. And I'm like, ooh, man, I don't know about this. But in other situations, you don't even realize that they're doing it. You don't, because it's handled well. They take a throwback, and I would like to provide examples if anybody's seen the movie. This is a couple of examples that are sort of key plot relevant, so you might want to mute the video and stuff like that. Just as not all of them are bad. There's a couple of prime examples of them doing this shit really good in terms of pandering. One of the most iconic sequences in Aliens, you'd say the power loader, you would say the Queen fight, you'd say the Nest fight. Bro, one of the coolest sequences in Aliens is the dropship sequence. Is them, you know, 3, 2, 1, launch, and them entering orbit from the dropship sequence. It is fucking sick. Such a sick sequence. This movie has a dropship sequence, but guess what they do? It's 100% a callback / throwback, but they do it differently. Instead of going down, they're going up. The whole point is that they have to exit atmosphere, and they have to exit ridiculously fast because of, like, you know, space shit. So there's a scene of them going up. You don't feel like, oh, this is just pandering and a callback, but that is literally a callback to the dropship sequence, but it's sick. And it's like, oh, it's handled in a different way. I like this. And I didn't even make that connection until later. It's like, oh, that's what we're doing here. That's actually kind of cool. I like that, without making me completely disconnecting me from the movie. There is another sequence that happens later that is similar to previous films, but is not the exact same, and they twist it in some way. And it's the pulse rifle sequence. This is another gripe of mine. It feels like the movie has so many ideas. The movie doesn't even take any time to have our characters even talk to each other after like the first hour. Characters get no time to talk to each other, bro. We gotta move, because guess what? We got a massive set piece next to another massive set piece next to another massive set piece. It's just set piece after set piece. And don't get me wrong, they're awesome. The set pieces they have are super good, but bro, characters don't even get to talk to each other. There's barely any line of dialogue between the characters that is relevant to the characters being the characters. It's mostly just them getting from this point to the next point. And it's like, oof, okay. So we're just moving right now. We just fucking, once this shit happens, once these things get out, we just start cooking from this point forward. And it isn't even like it's that fast. It's that there's like so much of it. It's like they had this idea and this idea and this idea and this idea and this idea, and it feels like they wanted to fit everything. It feels like, from a production standpoint, like the producers wanted to put everything in the movie. And then it gets a little like, yeah, maybe could have just not had a couple of those and just maybe let characters exist a little bit that I might have liked a bit. It gets like a bit too, it's like we're gonna lose it feels like we're gonna lose the audience if we don't keep it going. That doesn't take away from some characters. The main girl's great, and the hero of the story, the best character of the story, everyone agrees it's Andy. He's awesome. The actor does an amazing job. The hook that they have for Andy is also incredibly cool, what they do with him. So I loved it. I was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, this is cool. Where are they going with this shit, man? So again, some really cool ideas, but it's like they're trying to shove in like a bit too much. I'll go back to the example that I was about to say. They try to explain things very haphazardly, bro. They literally introduce pulse rifles and they're like, hey, we got guns. We got guns! And they give our characters guns. And they do another Aliens throwback, yada, yada, yada. But then immediately a character is like, you know, oh, you can't shoot those. And they're like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, no, you can't shoot those. If you shoot the alien, it bleeds and it busts a hole in the hole. And you can't fucking use them. And they're like, oh, but they'll be like afraid of the guns. They think we're gonna shoot them. Like it's a cop pulling you over. And I'm like, is that a fucking assist me gag? Is that literally an assist me gag, my dude? Where like the whole point of me giving Simmons a fake gun is that the alien doesn't know that the gun isn't real. It's a fucking assist me gag, but it's played for real and the aliens go, whoa, they have guns. So it's done in service of a reason, right? They're giving our characters pulse rifles. No, but everyone's running around with them. Nobody uses them, bro. I'm like, dude, what the fuck was the point of these guns? Like literally characters are carrying them around for 20 minutes and nobody shoots nothing. And I'm like, and it's like we're eventually gonna have to lead up to an alien situation where it's like we have to unload on these motherfuckers, right? So anyway, they eventually get to the point where it's like, okay, so we have to shoot some guns now. And we're gonna make it a big moment. And guess what? It's one of the coolest fucking moments in the movie. It's one of the sickest moments. The setup for it, the set piece for it, I love it. I don't want to spoil it, but it's super fucking cool. And then I ultimately realized, oh, dude, this was the reason they did it. They had like a zero reason why characters should have guns. They literally had like, we just want our scene. Like we need our scene. So how do we explain them having the scene without having to shoot? And the reasoning is just like, well, we have no idea, so we'll just come up with something. And characters just carry these things around for a hell of a long time until they eventually get to use it. And it's like, oh, in the exact same way, there is a character that is pregnant, and that is their whole character. And it's like, oh, this is being set up for something. There's a lot of shit like that that is like, this is obvious, okay? Like, we get it. We're giving our characters guns. The reasoning behind it doesn't make any sense. And then our character exists. It's revealed that she's pregnant. The whole point of her being pregnant is that I'm pregnant. And I'm gonna be used as a plot device because of me being pregnant. And it's like, okay, I get it. It gets a little like, it doesn't cover itself very well. And this is where I say some of its coolest moments are also some of its like biggest weaknesses, where that's not covering the other stuff where it's like the insane obvious aliens callbacks and alien callbacks, and starts off as Alien Isolation, but doesn't end as like an Alien Isolation, Alien 1 sort of movie. It doesn't. This movie is Alien Resurrection. All this movie actually is a better Alien Resurrection. The only thing that they took away from Alien Resurrection was the fact that there was like a clone Ripley. That was it. Almost every other aspect of the film is kind of like a similar, it's the same thing. It's kind of the exact same thing for the most part. You're getting from one end of the ship to the other end of the ship, and you're trying to like get in between all that stuff. And what happens by the time you get to the end of the ship is always pretty much the same thing. So, but yes, outside of like the minor character differences that happen in between, yeah, those shit, a lot of the shit that goes down in between the events of the film, once it's not Alien Isolation, is more so Alien Resurrection. Straight down to we're on a space station that was sort of a research and development center type shit, and we're a ragtag derelict group of misfits that is like gonna go through here and, you know, steal their resources and shit. I'm like, oh, so this is just Alien Resurrection now without Ripley. So with all that being said, that's where the movie kind of lost me in some points, but I still liked it. That's the crazy part. I still liked it. I still thought it was okay. I feel like the movie is significantly better if you don't give a shit about aliens, to be real. I think it's probably much more interesting and less distracting of a film if this is your first introduction to, like, if all you knew was Prometheus and Alien Covenant and you're like, hey, those movies are kind of fucking stupid. If that's your only reference of the last 10 years of like Alien movies, then you're probably gonna really like this, to be completely honest. Because the stuff that's distracting is if you're Aliens fans. If you're a fan of the first and second movie or the old movies in any way, if you've watched the old movies. If you are, it's distracting as fuck. And it's like, oof, it takes you out of the movie. Unless it's the first 30 minutes. Like first 30 to 45 minutes is godlike, bro. It is so good. Was it actually scary? Yeah, it was. There was some legit moments where I got kind of freaked out. Where I was like watching the movie and it's like, oh, bro, what the fuck is about to happen? What are we doing here? Oh God. And they do try to do some weird freaky shit with it, which is, as much as it sort of like is on the edge of being like, I don't know about this, but it's also like, oh, what the hell is going on? There was definitely some moments that I was like, oh God, ooh, this is weird and creepy, dude. So it did it. That is what you're supposed to feel like during an Alien movie. You're supposed to feel like what the hell is about to happen? What the fuck are we about to see type shit. I appreciate the film for that. I appreciate the way they shot the aliens. I appreciate the tone. I appreciate the way the movie felt. I just didn't appreciate the fact that it halfway through seems to lose all originality. It seems to just like literally jump it and pull from an Aliens Greatest Hits catalog or an Alien/Aliens Greatest Hits catalog. And it sometimes it's cool and at other times it's really distracting. It felt like the movie was directed by two different people. It's very weird. So anyway, I love the way they use dude, I love so many aspects of this film. It's like I almost wish I wasn't an Alien or an Aliens fan. It's crazy, dude. Third act, yeah, second and a half to third act got some big issues. But I was not disappointed. I liked it. I thought it was actually good. It's the third best Alien movie, dude. Like, no kidding. I feel like this will resonate quite a bit with a lot of people, which is why it's getting decent reviews, which is why it's getting good word of mouth. Because if you're not a fucking super turbo, if you weren't born on LV 426 and you sucked up the black goo up your asshole, had a face hugger literally fuck your own face and then, followed Newt's dad into the hellhole, then you're probably really gonna like this. You're probably gonna think it's sort of sick. So anyway, that's my review. It's a good time. Here's the thing. I actually recommend you see it. I do. I would recommend it. Even if you're an Aliens fan, I feel like, even if you're an OG Alien fan, I feel like you should watch it because there's at least some of it that is like, oh, we're finally doing some of this right? Oh, that's good. Oh, that's actually kind of cool that we're doing some of this right. It felt really good to actually have something that was like aliens again, not be shitty. It was like, oh, some parts of this are actually fucking sick. I really like some parts of this. And then, I recommend you actually see it in movie theaters. I do. My favorite scene was the pulse rifle scene. And it's also stupid. It's set up so dumb. Like how they eventually get to the pulse rifle scene. I fucking loved it, dude. It's like a straight up like, let's rock. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm super into this shit now, man. I thought it was super cool. So, but it's also like mega pandery, I think it's completely serviceable is what I'm trying to say. I think it's a serviceable movie. You start to think about any part of it and it's like, ugh. But when you watch it and you're kind of on the edge of your seat, yeah, it's pretty good.